and prominent politicians. All of them past and future guests at the Gnadenfeldt.
My name is Aron Rempel. I was named after my grandfather. He was Aron Rempel too.
He was
I'm the youngest son in our family, the fourth child of 7 children.
Who were some of your brothers and sisters?
Oldest brother is Aron Rempel. Because we were both ordained preachers, I felt very closer to my older brother than to my second and other brother. We were very close. We had more or less the same experiences.
Who was your other 2 brothers? Who were your other 2 brothers?
The other brother was, the second oldest brother was Dietrich, named after my dad. And the third brother was George. My mother had a brother George, and I think he was named after his uncle George.
Did you have any sisters?
Yes, I had 3 sisters. Tilda was the oldest one. And Annie was the second to her sister. Tina was the youngest one, was born after me.
And what was your mother's name?
My mother's name was Katerina Matis. She was born in Ukraine, this same area where my father was born and my grandfather.
Do you remember who your mother's parents were? Do you remember their names?
No. I remember my father's mother was Anna Gertz.
Gertz. Okay. All right. And what day and what year were you born?
I was born in 1903, long ago.
Yeah. What was the month and day?
That was the 22nd March, 1903.
2 days after Christmas.
Do you remember what town you were born in? Do you remember the name of the town?
Yes, the district town was Mozdok.
Mozdok.
I don't know, is it a Russian name or is it a Tatar name?
Mm-hmm. What area of Russia is it
It's
in?
on the north side of the Caucasus Mountains, between the Black Sea and Caspian Sea, on the north side of the mountains.
Okay. How long did you live there?
I lived there up to 1918 when the communists chased us off the farm.
Okay, so you grew up on the farm?
Yes.
Until you left Russia?
Yeah, I was helping my father's farm. In summertime I looked after the cattle and watched. We had no fences in Russia, so you had to watch, somebody has to watch all day the cattle on a pasture. And I was always helping, just as a farm help, work on the farm. I worked too, and I'm very glad for that I learned to work my younger days. Sometimes, some summers I looked after the cattle, another summer I looked after the sheep. We had about 350 sheep, and another summer I had to look after the pigs. Gosh, the pigs. Another time I had to look after the chickens.
after the geese too.
Yeah.
Turkeys.
Yeah.
Was your grandfather also a farmer?
My grandfather was an old elder in the church. Yes, he had a farm too, but on a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm. Was this a Mennonite Brethren church that you were part
No,
of?
it was a Men's Conference church.
Okay.
Lean back now. Just stay back.
Let's-
The
let's-
tape can hear you. Yeah, can hear you.
All right. And was he, in a position as the elder, did he also farm?
Yes, in those days nobody of the preachers got paid, so they had to support their family, to work to support the family. And my grandparents had a very big family. They had 13 children.
Mm.
And now I have little that I want to, you have to figure it out. My grandfather was the 7th child from the bottom if you count up, and the 7th child from the count down. How many children did he?
So
Was right in the middle.
This was your father? Oh, this was...
Yeah,
His
my dad
father.
was the seventh child from the bottom, the seventh child from the top. How many children have got?
Okay. Now, did he pass on his farm to your father? Was like your grandfather? Did he live on the same farm, or did he have another farm?
No. My dad figured his parents' farm was so small. He wanted to have a bigger farm, so he bought land in the Crimea.
Oh, I see.
And then he farmed a few years there, and he figured it's still too small. He wanted a real big one, and he went all over Siberia, from the west to the east, and landed in Japan. In all Siberia, he didn't find any land. He figured you could sow wheat on black soil, and all Siberia has brown soil. So he figured that wasn't good. And it took me a whole year to make that trip. East up to Japan, and then away back via the Indian Ocean and Red Sea and Black Sea. Took him a whole year. He went over Siberia by railway as far as he could go, and then he went by mail coach as far as the mail coach was traveling. And then he bought his own horse and his own wagon and traveled on his own team.
Do you know when he met your mother? When did he meet Katerina Mattis?
But she lived in the next village.
Next to Mozdok.
Yes. No, in Ukraine.
Oh, in the Ukraine.
Yeah. The village was Gnadenfeldt. And my dad was born in the village Gnadenfeldt.
Oh, I see. And this is where your grandparents were when you were born? They were still in the Ukraine?
I never saw my grandfather from father's side. I saw only my grandmother.
This is his father. Yes.
He must be about 18 years.
18 years.
He was 18 years in that picture. It was taken in 1884.
His brother and very strong he because they were bigger, they were grown up already. But he was very, very fast. So he moved him on. His big brother.
Did you meet many of your uncles? Did you?
No. I met only Uncle Abraham and Uncle Aron. I think that's Uncle Abraham, yeah. And Uncle Aron.
Because Grandpa, he bought this big piece of land. It was like a huta, we call it in Russian, like a estate. And it was in North Caucasus, and this is away from Gnadenfeldt. And he moved out there. And
Yeah, you traveled 2 days and night, but with the flyer to make the trip. It was quite a distance.
So that people didn't travel very much then. So,
It's not too much.
No, when the Russian has war with Turkey, the officers in the army didn't get paid. But when the war won, then they get a complex land, quite a big one, and they didn't know what to do with it. They rented it on sheep farmers, and there was not much income. They were always glad to sell it. So when my dad came back and he couldn't find any land in Siberia, always by accident he bought land, but what those officers said, he paid 27 rubles an acre. But the acre, the 16 is a small an acre. And when they came to the Caucasus to start farming, the local people told them, you do things wrong here. We don't plow that way like you plow. You have to leave also at the strip unplowed, otherwise you wouldn't have any hay rakes here. And my dad said, I work like we work to clean his land. We plowed really good and perfect and deep enough. And if I want hay, I sow grass and have my own hay.
So the local people didn't think much of his farming methods.
They never have seen wheat and they didn't know how to farm. And one farmer, a Lutheran farmer, said, Rempel, if you come here earlier, a few years ago, I would be now Richmond. And this Lutheran farmer, he had 3 sons, and the sons got very rich because they farmed like my dad and the Bolsheviks, the communists put all those 3 sons in jail and they lost their life because they had something. They produced something.
He was in a big wheat farm.
Yeah, and my dad had, what should I say, maybe 30 acres wheat the first year, and he couldn't sell the wheat because nobody knew what it was. The people, they had barley and millet. He couldn't sell the wheat. So he got in touch with a grain dealer in Ukraine and shipped all the wheat to him. And that fellow was far away, it was an Armenian. And the Armenians they figured they're very smart people. So we figured that is far away and he didn't pay him anything. That was forced to go to the grid and collect the money. And the man didn't have any money, but he had a wonderful piano. And he gave that piano to my dad instead of getting money out of me.
So for the first crop, he got the piano. But then afterwards it came, yeah?
And when my dad had hard days or the hard hours or something came across the way, not his way, then he sat at the piano and played piano.
Okay, maybe we can jump a few years and perhaps we can start at the beginning, the first indications of the Bolshevik Revolution, if you can remember when the revolution started and what effect it had on your town and on you, and then what you had to do to escape from Russia. What year did the revolution first start affecting?
Yeah, it was 1917.
Was it?
What happened? How did you find out?
But it came over us like a flood.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, one day in harvest time when we was cutting wheat, we all family sat in front of the kitchen on tables and had our lunch. Our lunch, and we sat on the acacia trees in the shade. And my dad was sitting on the end of the table and eating his, I think it was borscht too, we had borscht and buttermilks. And suddenly my dad jumped up and ran away from the table, and I couldn't figure out why. And as soon as he disappeared, there came maybe 17 horsemen on the guard, and they wanted to kill my dad.
They were going to kill him right then.
Yeah. No. My dad ran in the garden and to the vineyard and ran in the forest. We had some trees planted pretty close together, so that was a dancing forest. And my dad ran in the forest, and the forest was about 10 rows. And he ran in the row and froze. He didn't move and didn't talk, nothing. And those horsemen, they come the whole place, the trees, and ran the horses through every row to make sure that he wasn't there. But somehow God held them the eyes, and they didn't see him. Even the horses didn't know. The horses went by like that, and they didn't understand.
He was standing in the rows.
Yes. And when they left our farm, those horsemen, they met another man, an Abraham, on the road, and they shot him.
Just on the spot?
What that?
Just right there?
No.
Just on a spot there, they shot him?
No, it was about 2 miles away.
But I mean,
that Mr. Reimer was on a way home, but they met those bandits, and they shot him. Just to kill somebody. Terrible.
Is that the first time you had heard that there was a revolution?
No, we hear it, but that time that day we experienced it, but this one.
Oh, I see.
What effect did it have on your family? What did your dad do, and what did your family do as a result of these banditos coming?
Before 1914, many people were selling their farms and moving to Argentina and some to America, to Northern America, and some to South America, Argentina. And my dad had about 10 small farms in the village, in the Lutheran village. So we had a place to go when we left the big farm. And it didn't hurt us so much. They like people to live in poverty in small houses, not in comfortable houses.
Yeah, those big houses were the first thing where they went to kill those people, the rich people.
And you lived in a big house in
Yes.
Mozdok at the time.
Yeah.
How was it? 3 stories, 2 stories? Was it quite a?
One story.
One story?
But it was very well built and had even a furnace. For those days it was something new.
Is that right?
Yeah, from the site.
My mother was proud of her house. There was no dust, no ashes, nothing. That was all in the basement.
They had a door from the outside going down, and most of the fuel was straw in those days.
Yeah, in those days most houses had mice in the house because they brought the stove was in the house and they brought straw in the house to
With the
heat
mice.
heat the stove. The mice came along. And so this way all the mice stayed in the basement. It was very clean. And my mother had all English linoleum and every floor was covered with English linoleum. Really clean and good stuff.
So it was quite an expensive house for that
Oh yes.
time. Would your father have been one of the richest men in Mozdok?
Yes, in that area.
It was like they call them Gutsbesitzer. That means Gut is an estate.
Would he have been an official in the town or anything? Did they have?
I don't know.
No, we were about 40 miles away from town.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you see the estates they had them out
out in
of
the
town.
country.
Yeah.
Right.
The big estates in thousands of acres. Yeah.
Do you know how much money he would have earned in a year at all from farming? How many rubles it would have been?
Yes. I think it was 15,000, 1915, after the war, or during the war. That was the value of the car.
In those days, it was but later on more than him.
No, the Bolsheviks took out, the communists took out.
How many acres did you have? Land.
2,100.
2100 acres.
And it was land straight as a table, flat like a table. And you could work it from corner to corner.
All good land.
Did he have any help on the farm, or was it
Oh
just?
yeah, we had all year round farm help, all year round.
How many people were employed?
In summertime about 40, and in wintertime about 20.
These were mostly men from the village, were they?
Mostly men from Ukraine.
And they loved to work for them because, they lived in poverty. And here they had good food because they killed almost every day a sheep or a cow.
And they had wonderful food. I had every week in summertime I had to butcher a sheep. Because we had those days no refrigerators or deep freezers. And that way we had always fresh meat.
And vegetables.
And sometimes I had to butcher ox. I don't know by that told me to do those things.
So what happened after this first experience with the Bolsheviks? What did your father do? What did your family do then? What
Well, moved away.
you moved? Was it the same day that you moved, or
No, I
how
think
quickly after did you move?
as soon as it was possible.
Remember if it was a week or a month? Was it?
How soon later, do you know?
I can tell.
You see, Grandpa bought all those little farms from the
Right.
people, and when some of his brothers or sisters got married, then they moved into a little farm. Yeah.
How far away were those little farms?
Maybe.
They were about maybe 10 miles.
So they were quite close.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they moved in one of these houses too, and left the big house.
They
Did
just,
you just abandon it? Did you just abandon the big house?
you just left it.
Left it as it was?
Yes.
But some of the help stayed there.